Sweet Baby Inc. dooms another game studio. Alright, I'm ready.
So about a month ago, we talked about this game, Unknown 9 Awakening, and how it was another—
Oh my god, yeah, I remember looking at the game on Steam. Yeah, it released at the start of the month or something, right?
another giant failure associated with Sweet Baby Inc. Kim Belair hadn't been credited for working on the game, as well as David Bedard at Reflector, the dev studio behind Unknown 9 Awakening, who's also a co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc. So founding members of Sweet Baby Inc. have worked on Unknown 9 Awakening, and let's get a brief refresher of how that game's been doing before we take a look at the further news regarding—
It looks like shit at first glance. Surely this is just the bitrate of the review, right? It looks like crap.
this update. Hopping over to SteamDB, as of recording right now, there are currently 22 people in-game playing on—
No shot. 22? SteamDB review. Concord. Wait, Concord's dead. Never mind. What's a good one? Dustborn? How many people are playing Dustborn right now? Oh, 2 people. Oh, thank God. Oh, God. Okay. It's better than Dustborn, chat. Woo! Check it right now. Okay. Unknown 9 Awakening. 15 in game! Ooh! Look at Veilguard. I'm sure it's better than it's worse than Veilguard, surely. Yeah, 22k, okay.
Unknown 9 Awakening on Steam. Review score sitting at 33.47%. Astronomically terrible, as well as the player count, of course. And the all-time—
Well, yeah, because no one actually bought the game. Like, there's 300 people that bought the game. It makes sense.
peak player count is also awful, having achieved 285. To call this game a flop might even be generous. And I don't just say that because of the terribly—
This is a AAA game, by the way. This looks like a game from 2014. Like a bad one at that. Maybe like AA, not AAA. Look at the textures.
performing game itself, but everyone associated with—
Dude, why is the shadowing on the skin so bad? It looks like claymation. Dude, look at the deadpan stare on her. This is the trailer, by the way. Look, the story. You see that? That's not like in-game footage. That's like the trailer that they put on. Look at her arms. Dude, she's massive. Dude, she has bigger arms than most men. Look at the veins on that.
Unknown 9 Awakening from Reflector, Sweet Baby Inc., and even Bandai Namco seem to have thought that this would be a great, highly successful new intellectual property. As
It looks so bad. All their skin looks like plastic.
They're making their own cinematic universe of sorts, including various comic releases to go along with the game.
That must have costed so much money. How much money did they put in this game? This looks like ass.
And even a web series and scripted podcast. Oh, and also some novels, as you can see here. Got this whole thing lined up. So, like, let's just take a minute to just—
It looks like Fallout 3. I genuinely think Fallout 3 looks better than this. With certain texture packs. Modded, granted, sure, but still.
let this all sink in, man. Like, holy smokes, dude.
This is so bad.
This reminds me of Concord, right? Like, didn't the Concord people think that this was going to be like a long-term, like, Star Wars level successful IP?
Yes, they said that this was going to be like the next Overwatch. Imagine thinking that Concord is going to do like as good as Overwatch did at launch. Like, let's not get it twisted. Overwatch at launch was amazing. It popped off. It was great. Whatever's down the line is like whatever, but I'm just saying, like, it was great fun.
And they had like all these like huge ambitions for Concord.
Overwatch 1,
I mean, this is a
not
similar
2,
thing
chat.
with Unknown 9 Awakening. Obviously, far less money spent on this than Concord, and I don't believe Sweet Baby Inc. was involved with Concord at all. I'm simply comparing how both have flopped entirely. And
oh my god, they had an animated series? Ugh.
of course, there's also similarities in things like DI policies with the games, and also out-of-touchness and tone deafness from the people involved with both games. The point is, it's just funny to me, the similarities. It's really astonishing when people defend Sweet Baby Inc. They always cite like 2 successful games that they worked on, that being Ragnarok and also Spider-Man. And the vendors conveniently never talk about the numerous growing list of like extreme
Dude, look at the background. Look at the box right here. It looks like it's floating. Can you see that, chat? This is terrible for AAA.
Failures that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on. And another point that I've brought up before is Ragnarok and Spider-Man had giant teams working on those games. And
what are these? I can't believe this. Why does it look so washed out? Yeah, like PS2 graphics. That's actually an insult to PS2.
In other words, SBI's involvement was probably kept at a minimum. But the games that have like far smaller teams and therefore likely far more involvement from Sweet Baby Inc. tend to be these like huge flops, man. And now in this situation, I haven't even finished everything because
did she pull out the cum soul out of his body? What is that? Dude, she pulls out the cum out of his body and makes him into her and punches it. Dude, this looks terrible. Is this actually the game? No, I don't want to give it a fair chance. This is actually how it looks in game. Yeah, cum souls
turns
too.
Out Reflector is going through layoffs, similar to Zhao, who worked with Sweet Baby Inc., who then had layoffs and shut down their entire games division. It looks like Reflector is currently going down that same road. As that takes us to Eurogamer, who says Unknown 9 Awakening developers report layoffs.
Wow, what a surprise. More people losing their jobs because they thought they could make a game that sucked. I don't know what these investors are thinking. Wait, I actually know what they're thinking. They get talked to by Sweet Baby. They're like, this game's going to be amazing. And then a bunch of people get laid off and now they're bitter and are like resenting gamers for not buying their game. Again, I do understand why they're angry. Because they lost their job and they can't make money.
Reflector Entertainment's debut launched last month. Already, they are now laying people off. Staff members who worked on Unknown 9 Awakening report layoffs across the team at Canadian outfit Reflector Entertainment.
Ooh, another Canadian studio down the gutter.
Jobs lost include roles within Reflector's art, marketing, narrative, and quality assurance teams. Game developer reported Unknown 9 Awakening launched last month to mixed reviews on.
I had no idea this game came out. They had no budgeting for marketing at all, and the game still looks like a mobile game. I've seen mobile games that look better than this, honestly.
Steam, where it sits with a mixed rating, less than 100 players have rated the game. The game was also meant to act as a central point for the franchise as a cross-media brand. Just this week, a second season of Unknown 9 Out of Sight tie-in podcast was launched, while the 4th issue of its graphic novel series Unknown 9 Torment arrived. There's also a web series, Unknown 9 Passage, which you can go watch on YouTube.
Why did you make all of these things, like the web series and everything, but then market it like shit and make the game shit? Shouldn't you make like a good game and then do the following? Like, I understand if it's like, you know, Diablo or World of Warcraft or League of Legends where they like have comic books or whatever released when like new patches come out or a new character comes out. I totally get it. But this is so bad. Like, nobody gives a fuck about your dog shit ass franchise. Get them invested, then do like, you know, massive cinematics or like series.
We also have a quote that reads,
the brand name, exactly.
I was affected by the layoffs at Reflector Entertainment, which means I'm currently looking for a job as a narrative designer or game writer. If you hear of any opportunities, please let me know, one staff member who lost their job wrote. Eurogamer has contacted Bandai Namco for comment. They also mentioned that the protagonist Haruna was played in the final game by Anya.
Ooh, it was published by Bandai? Yeah, Bandai's not going to be happy with their investment.
Shalatra, aka Yennefer, in Netflix's The Witcher. And it was the first project from the Montreal-based...
Wait! Played in the final game by Anya Shalatra, aka Yennefer. Wait, I knew she kind of looked familiar. Yeah, the actress. Yeah, she's cool, man. Yo, have a great day with the raid. Welcome on in. Welcome to hell. We're talking about another doomed game.
Reflector, co-founded by former Assassin's Creed Unity creative director Alexandre Amancio. Returning to David Bedard, you may notice that he had also worked over at Ubisoft, seemingly Ubisoft Montreal. There's a recurring theme with...
Of course, everything goes back to Poopysoft Montreal. She's also very attractive. What the fuck did they do to her in this game? Yeah, I know. Isn't it insane? I'll chalk it up to graphics, surely,
Obvious
right?
consultation firms like Sweet Baby Inc. and others that they are based out of Canada. And it does seem like a number of the people working there do indeed have ties back to Ubisoft. A top comment on our Kotaku in Action discussing this news would say, I would have loved to be a fly on the office wall of the people in charge when the sales numbers for those novels and comic books started coming in. What sales numbers? The response reading,
200 people played the game. You got some fan art? Yo! You should post it in Discord or Twitter. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
it's highly regarded. Why don't they do any market research and playtesting? Spend 5 minutes on YouTube and you'll see this is not a winning strategy. Virtue signaling may get you a lot of clicks, but it won't get you sales.
It doesn't even get you clips. It gets you selective clips from people that won't even buy your game. It clearly doesn't track.
To be quite frank, though, all of this
No one
stuff is
gives a
extremely
fuck.
bizarre. Like, you would imagine that they would care about sales, but then they talk about they being Sweet Baby Inc. employees having been on record talking about wanting to burn the gaming industry to the ground. On top of that,
Well, yeah, you're succeeding at it, but I'm hoping that a lot of indie developers will realize that you shouldn't take investments and threats from people like Sweet Baby Inc. Like, not even buy Sweet Baby Inc. I'm saying, like, people like them.
we've seen how a number of these consultation firms and their associates have been grifting off of government money, attempting to use DI as a way of achieving ESG metrics, which helps them secure said funding. It's all extremely bizarre.
Dustborn, don't forget, Dustborn took EU government grants to make the game, like 80,000 euros, I think. Yeah, they took $80,000 in taxpayer money from Europe to make the game, and the game didn't sell at all.
And corrupt. And clearly these people really shouldn't be in the gaming industry. They have no passion for games or gamers. As a matter of fact, lack of passion is an understatement. A lot of these people flat out despise gamers. So let me know what you think about all of that Sweet Baby Inc. and Unknown 9 Awakening stuff. And we've got one more thing to take a look at here, as I've had a lot of people tagging me and mentioning the situation in my comments, asking me to cover this. So let's take a look. Ollie Barter had said,
Oh my god, this is chills. Someone in my chat said the words Sony's talking about is gonna buy Kadokawa, and I was like, this can't be real. This can't be happening. Please don't buy them.
Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa. And by the way, thank you all for the tags and comments. Now let's take a look at what he says here over on Forbes. In a pretty astonishing piece of news,
I thought it was
seems
real.
that Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa. According to Reuters,
I thought they already bought it. I was so scared.
Sony is thinking of buying Kadokawa, which would have massive ramifications for both games and anime. From a gaming standpoint, the big acquisition would be From Software, of which Kadokawa has a controlling stake as of 2014.
Oh, that's not good. They have already a stake? How big of a stake?
Admittedly, Sony already has a small chunk of FromSoft, along with Tencent, but this new setup would put Sony much more directly in charge.
Kadokawa owns like 30% of the worldwide anime and manga distribution. It's $1 billion market, not about From Software. I completely understand. I'm saying this will affect all the games from Software. Try saying that five times fast.
Considering Microsoft's recent acquisition of Activision, it makes
not
sense
good.
that Sony would go after a company like FromSoft via Kadokawa. Sony has had a long-standing relationship with FromSoft, going back to the 90s and the original PlayStation, so in theory, this could be a good matchup. However, my only concern with this is that the Japan studio at Sony was gutted recently. Okay, yeah, hold up, let's talk about that really quick. So, back in 2021, Sony essentially shut down Japan studio. Now, people often meme around with varying levels.
Yeah, and now they've moved everything to California. I remember that.
Seriousness, that Sony isn't even a Japanese company any longer. And Sony gutting or shutting down Japan studio, however you want to phrase it, certainly does seem like a symbolic representation of that being the case. They attempted to justify this action by essentially saying that the studio just wasn't profitable enough anymore. And then what do they do a few years later? Get involved with Concord, losing about...
Fireworks Studios was valued at like $500 million or something before Concord. And that's why Sony acquired them, and then they made the game. And about that one, was it $500 million? Yeah, about that. I'm pretty sure it's dead, is it not?
$400 million. Now, of course, a lot of stuff has occurred throughout all of this. This is
Yikes.
just like a few brief points, but oh my gosh, dude. So we left off here. However, my only concern with this is that Japan...
My biggest gripe is that not only Sony is not Japan anymore, they shut that down, right? Now it's based in California, which means Western principles. If Sony owns like Aniplex, Crunchyroll, and like the big, you know, they're like the Netflix of anime, so to speak, they're gonna start censoring and running with what Westerners want, which is really, really bad.
studio at Sony was gutted recently, and the same thing could happen under Sony to FromSoft. That would obviously be awful. The other side of this is Kadokawa's anime and manga output. Sony already has Crunchyroll and Aniplex, so buying Kadokawa would...
There's just basically gonna be a massive monopoly. Why is this allowed, man?
...bring a huge amount of IP across anime and manga under Sony's roof. Kadokawa also has a sizable chunk of the Western anime press, having bought Anime News Network and owning Bookwalker, who run GX+. Yeah, well, Anime News Network and Sony, they would go perfect together, hand in hand, if you get that joke. The joke being Anime News Network's terrible reputation. It's a lot of stuff we could talk about regarding that, but I'm not going to bury the lead at the end. The article would conclude saying, in short, this is a lot to take in and would have a dramatic impact across games and anime, not only in Japan, but also globally. Yeah.
Absolutely. All the censorship is going to affect the average consumer. They're going to either pirate or stop consuming anime, and we'll just have another crash. Yeah, I don't know. It's not looking too hot. I had no idea until recently that Sony owned a majority of like the anime industry, and it's legal. I thought there were lots of different companies having a monopoly. Nope. No, they do not. Don't you love the government?
So I do think this would be pretty terrible stuff.
Poggers.
Sony have an increasing grip, infesting their hands on the FromSoft even more. And clearly also not a good thing for the anime industry, in my opinion. We'll see how things continue to develop, but let me know what you think about all of this news, the Unknown 9 Awakening stuff, and this Sony stuff at the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed my coverage, and if you did, please consider liking and or subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.
It'll be censored from the source now? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is gonna have massive consequences. Massive consequences that will ripple through the next like decade or two. This is terrible. I can't wait for FromSoft to go under. Yay! All because of monopolies. Good, now they can either treat all Souls games like Bloodborne, locked to PS systems and forgotten about. Yeah, it's wonderful that Bloodborne's been out for like what, like 10 years now. And we still don't have a PC port. Isn't that cool?